Hey, what's new and exciting? It's Kevin O'Shaughnessy here, and in this video I'm going to share with you a handful of licks in E minor to help you get used to supinated picking orientation and downward pick slanting. If you're new to the channel, welcome. Feel free to have a look around. I post videos on guitar technique, songwriting, and music production. My goal is to help you find your voice in any and all of that so that you can make the music you want to make a little quicker, with more confidence and a little less confusion. So if that sounds interesting to you, by all means subscribe and remember to hit the notifications bell so you're kept up to date when I post new content. In a previous video, I gave an introduction to basic picking mechanics. Okay, we talked about forearm rotation, supination, and pronation. We talked about wrist deviation. We also talked about flexion and extension, and how all of that plays a role in your picking technique and your ability to cross strings easily or learn how to play fast. So if you haven't seen that video, I will leave a link in the description below. There'll also be a button above my head. Click on that because a lot of the vocabulary that I'm going to be using in this video was covered in the previous video. So if you're feeling a little lost, go back and check that out, and that should clear up any questions. In this video, I'm going to discuss the supinated picking orientation and the resulting downward pick slant. So if you remember from the last video, a supinated orientation is one where we hold the hand in this almost palm up kind of fashion. The result is that the big part of the pick points down towards the floor, hence some of this terminology. The specific mechanical advantage that provides is that your pick clears the string after every upstroke. So in a strict alternate picking situation where we're picking down and up, the pick kind of gets buried in the strings after every downstroke, but every upstroke it clears the strings, and as long as you have an even number of notes on every string, you'll always be able to switch strings easily. These first two licks are static two-string patterns using the E minor pentatonic scale. Now the pentatonic scale, I'm sure you're familiar with it, but if you're not, I'll demonstrate it in a moment, is a perfect scale to use for downward pick slanting and supinated orientation because there are only two notes on every string. So in strict alternate picking, down, up, as soon as you finish the pattern on that string, your pick is cleared. So the notes of this scale, we're going to be up here at the 12th fret. So this is E, G at the 15th fret, A at the 12th fret, B at the 14th fret, D at the 12th fret, and then we're back to E at the 14th fret, and then it's G at the 12th fret, A at the 14th, B at the 12th fret, D at the 15th, E at the 12th, and G at the 15th fret. So if I play the whole scale ascending, it sounds like this. Descending works the same way. Now if you notice what my pick is doing, it comes into the strings on the downstroke and away from the strings on the upstroke. I'll try to exaggerate the motion. Now notice I repeated the top note. If I didn't repeat the top note, it would give me an odd number of notes per string, and the picking orientation would no longer work. So moving on to the licks, these first two licks are based in the pentatonic scale, and they are static licks, which means that they're not going to travel. They're just going to repeat the same notes. I'll play the lick first, then I'll describe how it works. 1, 2, 3, 4. So the lick itself is fairly simple. It repeats the notes G, E, B, D 4 times and then ends with a bend. Notice each time I change the strings is after an upstroke. Makes it very simple. Now we'll do the same thing in reverse. We'll repeat the notes B, D, E, G. We'll play those notes 4 times and end with a bend at the 15th fret of the E string, which is G. We're going to bend from G to A. 1, 2, 3, 4. it doesn't make any difference whether the lick is ascending or descending. It's the orientation and the even number of notes that makes the lick work. The remaining licks are going to be traveling licks. In other words, they're going to move up or down the scale. We're also going to move across and along the neck. Okay, these first licks are going to move across the neck along the pentatonic box position. So this first one right here, again, it's going to be 16th notes just like the last one, and we're going to use that same pattern of 4 repeated notes. It sounds like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. So what I'm doing is I'm taking the same pattern that we did in the first exercise. G, E, D, B. And then repeating it on each string pattern, conforming it to fit the fingering of the pentatonic scale. And then doing it again. And then one last time. And then ending on a B to end the lick. Now we can do the same thing ascending, only this time I'm going to end it with a bend. 1, 2, 3, 4. So those examples move across the neck, but what if we go back to our 2-string example and move along the neck? We might be able to get something like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. What I'm doing is I'm taking the same notes of the pentatonic scale, but instead of sticking in the box, I'm moving them along the string. We can also do the reverse. 1, 2, 3, 4. I can play the lick in one position, and it sounds like this. But it also doesn't fit into this downward pick slanting that we're working on. The last couple of licks I'm going to demonstrate are in the E natural minor scale, or the E Aeolian mode if you prefer. It's very similar to the pentatonic scale. We're just going to add a couple of notes. We've got E, F sharp, G, A, B, C, D, and E. If we continue that pattern further in the same position, it would look like this. E, F sharp, G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G. These two licks use the 3 notes per string scale fingering concept. Now, as you might imagine, already that sounds like it's not going to work with this. We have 3 notes per string, but we need an even number of notes per string in order to get downward pick slanting to work. Well, all we really need to do is double the number of notes. So instead of 3, we do 6. Now it works just fine. We can descend in the same fashion, and it works the same way. So for this lick, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to incorporate a position shift in the middle of it. What this is going to allow me to do is keep the same fingering in each octave, and it makes the lick a little easier to play. I'll play it first, then I'll break it down. 1, 2, 3, 4. So if you notice, for starters, I'm still playing 16th notes. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a, even though I'm playing generally 6 notes on a string. But let me break this all down. First I play E, F sharp, and G twice. And because that's a grand total of 6 notes on that string, I end with the upstroke and can switch strings easily. Now I go to the A string and I play A, B, C twice. Again, same thing, 6 notes ending on an upstroke. Then I move to the D string and play D, E, F sharp, D. And that concludes the pattern. That's my entire collection of 16th notes for that measure. 6 plus 6 plus 4, little basic math. I get 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 E and a, 4 E and a. Now I do a position shift up 2 frets. I start on the 14th fret, and I can use basically the same picking combination and the same fingering combination to do the lick in the next octave, like this. The only difference this time is the B string compensation. So you probably are aware that the B string is tuned 1 fret lower than everything else. So in order to maintain the same fingering combination, I have to adjust my position one last time and move everything that's on the B string up 1 fret from where it was in the previous octave. Hopefully that all makes sense. I'll put it together again so that you can hear it. The final part of this lick is to accent the string change and the position shift. I just play the notes at those times a little louder, and what that creates is a rhythm within a rhythm. It makes it a little bit more interesting than just playing the straight 16th notes. By putting in the accents, I get this sort of 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1. And it creates a much more interesting pattern, I think. Listen carefully for that. I'll play it again. 1, 2, 3, 4. And of course you can do the same lick descending. So I hope that starts to clear up a few things about this supinated picking orientation and downward pick slanting. Again, remember to check the description below to get the PDF of the licks that I demonstrated here. And if you want to create your own licks, you can follow a couple of these simple steps. Number 1, keep an even number of notes on every string and use strict alternate picking. So start your lick on a downstroke so that you can end each string on an upstroke to get across the strings more easily. Number 2, do a little math and try to keep your lick conformed to either 4 or 8 beats in general. You want to try to make it as musical as possible. Simply doing the entire lick all the way up and down the scale is not really the way you're going to use it in actual music. While you can certainly practice it that way, it's a little bit more musical if you try to write a lick that fits within a musical phrase like 4 beats or 8 beats. A couple of other things that you can do to challenge yourself might be to transpose these licks into the different scales you know how to play. The first couple of sets of licks were in the pentatonic scale. Is there a way that you can force them into the natural minor scale and vice versa? You can also practice the licks in different portions of the same scale. If you want a further challenge, try skipping strings. For example, the first lick that I demonstrated was between the E string and the B string, but who's to say you can't use the E string and the G string? Just remember to conform the lick to the fingering of the scale you're using, like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. The last thing that I would suggest would be to improvise a simpler 2-measure phrase to go either in front of or behind one of these licks. I'd use long notes like quarter notes and half notes to provide contrast, but it will allow you to get a sense for what these licks would sound like in a more musical context. For example, if I took that first lick again, I might precede it with something that sounds like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that way you can hear the 2 phrases, one phrase ascending, one phrase descending, one made of long notes, one made of short notes, and it provides that contrast that makes it sound more musical. So I hope you found that useful. If you did, remember to check out the other video called Sharpen Your Pick, where I give the introduction to all of these mechanics. Be sure to download the PDF in the description that comes with this video. And if you have any questions, feel free to hit me up in the comments. In the meantime, I'm Kevin O'Shaughnessy, and I'll see you in the next video.